Generation 5 is the best generation for bug Pokemon. A lot of very strong bugs were introduced, and Pokemon Black and White were created in a sort of Pokédex vacuum, where you could only catch and use the new Pokemon. There were no other generations until after beating the Elite Four. But even with the strongest bugs, they did not make the journey to becoming champion easy at all. Because I failed this run multiple times, to the point where I almost just canceled this video altogether. But you, the people, spoke up, and I wanted to give you something. So join me on my journey while I try to beat the Unnovan region into submission only using bugs. The rules of this run are quite simple. It's a hardcore bug lock, so I'm only able to use bugs in battle. I can only catch one of each bug, and I must catch the first unique bug of each route. If I kill it, then I don't get anything for that route. If one of my bugs faints, then it goes to the box. I cannot use items in battle, and I have to cap my Pokemon's level to the ace of the next big battle, usually the next gym fight. I chose the win condition to be against Getsis and Team Plasma's castle, but if I complete this run, then let me know if you want me to continue it to the fight with Alder. Before we can even begin our run, I have to modify the ROM file I am playing on, because in Pokemon White, you don't get a bug in the wild until after the first gym battle. So I have to change one of the starters to one of the first bugs I could encounter in Pinwheel Forest. The choice is between Venipede and Sewaddle, but I left it up to chance. Spin the wheel! And we get Sewaddle for our starter. What is the present that the professor is leaving us? I really hope it isn't a floater. I chose to overwrite Oshawott slot to make the first gym easier, so I nicknamed Sewaddle Oshawott. Don't tell anyone, I think I have them fooled. Oshawott has the relaxed nature, which is a nice buff to defense, but the lower speed means we will have to EV train speed a bit more. And yes, I have to EV train this run. There is literally no other way. My friends want to see who catches the most Pokemon. Don't they know I'm doing a bug-only Nuzlocke and there aren't any bugs in this route? Meanies. I am lectured to by Getsis and Team Plasma, and then beat up some green-haired kid with a letter for a name. Oh, he on that X Games! The first terrifying fight of this run starts against Bianca, since her Tepig knows Ember and Oshawott is a bug grass Pokemon. No, really, Oshawott is bug grass. Look it up. Even being 3 levels higher than her, it does half of my health with the ×4 super effective move. Luckily, Bianca's AI is terrible and she doesn't end the run with a second Ember, allowing me to continue forward. We meet up with Charon and eat his Pokemon with Bug Bite, having 2 super effective hits and 2 knockouts. It was time for the gym. Since you can't skip any gym trainers, I almost got Oshawott to level 15 before the fight unintentionally. We 2-shot the Lillipup and that brought us to level 15, and then 1 Bug Bite and we have our first gym badge, one step closer to completing this hardcore run. Immediately after the gym, Fennel invites us up to a room to show us something. I have never been invited up to a girl's room. What could she want to show us? We received Cut and Catch Patrat on Route 2 in order to use it, allowing us to stop Team Plasma from beating up the poor Muna. Charon wants a rematch, but considering his team is weak to bug type attacks, we easily sweep him with 2 Bug Bites, getting our Oshawott dangerously close to the level cap for the next gym. Who knew bugs were so easy to train? We learned that some Team Plasma grunts stole some Pokemon, and while I did try to not get involved, we were forced to find the little girl's Pokemon. After safely returning the Pokemon, it was time for the second gym, but not after N stops us outside the museum, rambling about his cause or something. I don't know. We gave Oshawott an Oranberry since N leads with a Pidub, who we did 2-shot with Tackle, but did take a ×4 super effective Gust. We 1-shot N's Temple, leaving just his Timber left. Timber was faster than us and used Bide, and since we clicked Razor Leaf and hit, bringing Timber to half, we needed to hit this 95% accurate move one more time in order to not get nuked by Bide. We land the hit, beating in for the second time and allowing us to challenge the gym for real this time. I was worried about Lenora's Watchog since it is super fast, but with Oshawott evolving into Swadloon at the level 20 cap, and with all the speed EVs we got from defeating Wild Purloins, I was hoping the fight would go our way. We were faster than the Herdier, and while it used Leer the first turn, it missed Takedown the second turn, and we were able to defeat it with 3 Bug Bites. But since we are at -1 defense for Lenora's Watchog, which is faster than Oshawott, Watchog hits us hard with Retaliate, and we landed a Bug Bite afterwards. Knowing I needed speed on my side, I went for a String Shot, and Watchog missed its Hypnosis. Maybe I should have swapped the Oranberry for a Chesto. I protect Oshawott to scout out what the AI wants to do, and they go for another Hypnosis. Oshawott gets a second second Bug Bite, but Watchog hits Hypnosis this time, meaning we are now at the mercy of RNG. A second Retaliate brings us into the yellow, but the Oranberry does heal us back a bit. I send up a prayer to Arceus, and he answers, with Oshawott waking up turn 2 using Protect. We then crit Bug Bite the next turn to win our second badge, and even though we may have used up all of our RNG for the run is still alive. Before we can even calm our emotions, Team Plasma is back at it, breaking into the museum and stealing the head of the dragon fossil on display. We meet the Bug Gym leader early as he accompanies us into Pinwheel Forest, home of bug Pokemon. We get the fossil back to Nat Cream City's museum and set our sights for Castelia City. I do have a confession to make though, so watch me run across this bridge for consolation. I have had a few runs fail by saying the starter Pokemon counts as our encounter for Pinwheel Forest. Some were lost due to only having one Pokemon that faints, others were lost due to me over leveling the single Pokemon, and I didn't want to have to keep resetting the level in PK Hex or something. So I made the executive decision to catch Angie the Venipede as our second bug with a terrible nature of Modest that drops our attack stat. After running around saving the day in Castelia City, it was time to fight our bug brother-in-arms, Berg. I'd led Angie into his Whirlipede, able to get off 3 Screeches and allowing Pursuit to be a 2-hit knockout. I kept Angie in for Dwebble, going for a Screech and then swapping to Oshawott, who was able to waste Berg's Super Potion and then defeat Dwebble. Leaveney was the ace, and while it was the evolved form of my Oshawott, it only had Struggle Bug, which didn't do a lot of damage, allowing me to take it low with Oshawott and finish it off with Angie. Sorry for the bug-on-bug violence, but that was Gym 3 down. We came across Bianca, who wants to fight us, and I'm pretty sure her AI is made to lose on purpose. I led Angie and screeched Herdier, one-shotting it the next turn with Poison Tail. Bianca sent out Muna, so I swapped into Oshawott, getting hit with Yawn. Not wanting to swap Angie into a Psybeam, I stayed in with Oshawott and nuked Muna with a Bug Bite, but Oshawott fell asleep. I swapped Angie into a Flame Charge, and while I expected to get hit with another Flame Charge and lose Angie, Bianca had her Pignite keep using Defense Curl, so Angie was able to knock it out with a crit Poison Tail. A single Bug Bite knocked out Pansage, and somehow we had won the battle. I am so glad I gave Bianca Tepig instead of Charon. Oshawott evolved into Leaveney, and Charon decided to try his luck by battling us again. How many times do I have to teach you this lesson, dude? I led Angie and screeched his Pidove, one-shotting it the following turn with a Poison Tail. Panpour had the same fate, and with Angie pretty low on health, I swapped into Oshawott for Charon's Liepard. Unfortunately, Liepard went for Pursuit into Angie, but Angie was barely able to tank it and survive, letting Oshawott get 2 knockouts with 2 Bug Bites. I don't understand how Charon beat Berg, because we are manhandling the poor kid with our bugs. We caught our 3rd bug in the desert resort. Say hello to Hermie the Dwebble. It is lonely in nature, so we might have to boost its defense with some EVs, but great to have the added physical attack. We made it to Nimbasa City, and it was time for 2 of the hardest fights in the run. Seriously, these killed so many of my previous runs, I was not excited. To help calm our nerves, we had a quick date with Inn before the battle. What a beautiful view of the city from the Ferris wheel. I led Oshawott into Inn's Sandile, one-shotting it with Bug Bite and forcing out the Darumaka. I swapped into Hermie, staying above half health from the Fire Punch. Smackdown knocks out Darumaka, and I swapped back to Oshawott for Scraggy, which we did get swaggered, but Oshawott knocked it out with Bug Bite. Inn sent out the run killer Sigalith. Knowing I couldn't swap out any of my Pokemon without them being knocked out, and having the +2 attack from Swagger, I decided to bite my bullet and go for the Bug Bite, hoping to hit through the confusion. And we do, knocking out Sigalith and allowing us to face the next hardest battle. But not after dressing up Hermie. For the fight with Alessa, I gave Hermie the Eviolite and Oshawott a Miracle Seed, hoping the extra bulk in offense will help us win. I led Hermie, setting up rocks while Alessa's first Emolga used Volt Switch. Hermie then uses Smackdown to take its first victim, swapped into Oshawott, who tanked a Volt Switch and was now across the field from Zeb's Striker. For some reason, Alessa went for Quick Attack, and a Miracle Seed boosted Razor Leaf brought the Electric Horse into the red, which Alessa healed back with a Hyper Potion. But it didn't matter since we crit the second Razor Leaf, leaving one final Emolga. It was at 50% since it took so much damage from rocks, and Oshawott used Retaliate for the win, giving us our 4th gym badge and getting us over the first big hump of this bug lock. Cheren stops us before we were able to cross the bridge, which we led Oshawott into Liepard. One-shotting with Bug Bite, we swapped to Hermie for Tranquil, and one-shot with Smackdown, swapping back to Oshawott for Panpour. One Razor Leaf takes it down, and then 2 Bug Bites defeat Servine. I like battling Cheren, it is a nice respite from the crazy hard battles we have everywhere else. I level Engie up with some trainers and sneak ahead to Route 6 to grab Karen the Carablast before we take on the ground gym. I won't be able to evolve Karen yet, but maybe Karen will be able to help with some of the trainers in the gym to scare them off so we could easily get to their manager, Clay the ground connoisseur. I evolved Engie into Scolipede and gave it the expert belt since I thought Krokorot had Intimidate, but it didn't. One Bug Bite took the Croc down and Clay sent out Excadrill. I had Engie go for a Screech and Clay had Excadrill set up a Hone Claws. I swapped Oshawott into a Bulldoze, which was not great to see the speed fall since the next turn a Rock Slide brought Oshawott down to just 4 HP. Luckily we hit a Razor Leaf and brought Excadrill low as well, causing Clay to heal and allowing us to click Razor Leaf again, critting and taking down the Mole Rat. Palpitoad came out and Oshawott nuked it with another Razor Leaf, letting us breathe and getting us one step closer to Chargestone Cave. Bianca caught me off guard with where she wanted to battle, but luckily I am paranoid, so I heal immediately after every major fight. I led Hermie into her Herdier to set up rocks and got a crit from Bug Bite to faint the dog. Another Bug Bite took down Pansage, and I swapped to Oshawott for Musharna, who wasn't able to get a clean one-hit knockout, so Bianca kept healing back her pink cloud. Eventually we took Musharna down, and Bianca sent out Pignite, who I was scared about at first, but then I realized it didn't have any fire type moves. 2 slashes later and we collect our payment from Bianca and beeline it to Chargestone Cave's entrance, where Clay gives us Bulldoze and clears the Galvantula web from the entrance like a dick. What if Galvantula came to your house and just demolished it? How would you feel? And after talking to what seems like literally every NPC in the game, we are finally able to encounter Joltik. I catch it, I name it God since it evolves into one of my favorite Pokemon, wished it had a better nature than Lonely, and continued through the Electric Cave. We caught up to N before the end of the cave, but luckily he keeps changing his team so it isn't as difficult of a fight as it was previously. I led Hermie, who was able to 2-shot Boldore with Dig, and I swapped to Oshawott for the Ferroseed. It was a battle of attrition against that spiky seedling, since Oshawott took more damage from Iron Barbs than it did from any attack, but we finally took it down and I swapped Oshawott out since it was pretty low. I brought out Engie for Joltik and felt bad for having to defeat the little electric spider, but I want to win this run. Engie took down Joltik and then defeated Clink after a Screech, and we made it to Mistralton City. I do some EV training before the gym, and I decide to evolve Hermie for the attack boost, even though we do lose some of the bulkiness since it can no longer hold the Eviolite. We go to the top of Celestial Tower to check on the sick Pokemon, and Skyla says we are a kind soul. Nobody tell her about the Purloin genocide I have committed on this run in order to get speed EVs onto my Pokemon. We then head back down the tower to face her at her gym. I teach Joltik Volt Switch before we challenge Skyla and then lead Hermie into the fight. Heart Stamp from Woobat flinched on the first turn, but Hermie was able to set up rocks on the second turn. I think we got Woobat stunlocked into Amnesia since we did miss a few rock slides, but Woobat kept going for Amnesia until we were finally able to connect with Rock Slide and one-shot it, forcing Skyla to send out Swanna. I swap into Joltik for free since Swanna goes for an Aqua Ring, and since I don't want to have another Pokemon face the Tranquil in the back, I went for an Electro Shot and O-Code Swanna, then finished off Tranquil with Volt Switch, leveling Joltik to 36 and evolving it right after the battle. I collect the 6th gym badge and get jump scared by In coming out of the gym. He didn't want to battle, just wanted to talk. Whatever, dude. Cheren wanted to fight on Route 7, and I led God thinking I could cleanly sweep his team. And cleanly sweep I did, only taking damage from Liepard's Fake Out, otherwise one-shotting each Pokemon. God is living up to its name. I arrive in Icarus City and catch Shelly the Shelmet, which finally allows me to evolve both Karen and Shelly into Escavalier and a Selgor, just in time for Bryson, the Ice Master, in the 7th gym. EV training my Mons a bit and leveling them up to the level 39 cap, I led Karen expecting to sweep Bryson with a single Pokemon. Ironhead one-shot the Vanillish through the acid armor it set up, and Bryson sent out Beartick. Beartick did use Swagger, but Karen is a beast and hit through the confusion, leaving Bryson with just Cryogonal. Not wanting to swap, I click Ironhead again, and Karen snaps out of its confusion and destroys the Cryogonal, giving us our 7th gym badge. That might have been the easiest gym fight so far. Team Plasma is causing more trouble, this time at the Dragon Spiral Tower. And if you didn't think the level design and visuals were amazing in Pokemon White, the beginning of Dragon Spiral Tower is one of the coolest sequences I have ever seen in a Pokemon game. I absolutely love the look of the fallen pillars and the traversal that the player must do. More incredible visuals come with the arrival of Reshiram, but unfortunately it is a Fire Dragon Pokemon that is in the hands of our enemy. Not looking forward to that fight. We leave the tower, let everyone know what we saw, and head to the Dragon Masters in Opelucid City. Bianca stops us in Route 8, even though the fate of the world depends on me getting to Opelucid City to talk with Iris and Drayden. I led Angie into Stoutland, and Screech helped take down the big dog. I swapped into Oshawott for Musharna, one-shotting it with X-Scissor. Hermie came in for Embor, who was able to deal a lot of damage to Hermie, but luckily Hermie pulled through and defeated the Flaming Pig with Dig. Swapped back to Angie for Pansage and one-shot it with Steamroller. Get out of my way, Bianca. I have to save the world here. Even though Iris didn't have any super effective moves on her Pokemon, dragons are still an incredibly powerful type, and I was worried about the fight. I got all my Pokemon to the level 43 cap and gave Hermie the Soft Sand, Angie the Poison Barb, and Big Root to Shelly, even though I probably wouldn't need it for this fight. After figuring out the gym's puzzle, like the puzzle master I am, I squared up with the Child Prodigy and led Karen into her Fracture, knowing Steel resists Dragon, and Karen has a great physical defense stat as well. Fracture used Dragon Dance, and I took it to the low yellow with an Iron Head. Knowing that Iris will heal the next turn, I went for an Iron Defense to counter out the attack boost from the Dragon Dance. Third turn, Fracture went for Dragon Dance again while Karen took it low with an Iron Head, and since Dragon Tail goes last in the turn, Karen hit first with Iron Head the next turn to defeat Fracture. Iris sent out Druddigon, and since Karen went first, it was most likely going for a Dragon Tail, but we crit and knocked it out, so it will remain a mystery. Haxorus was the last Pokemon, and Karen hit first with Iron Head, dealing about 40% but being forced to swap out due to Dragon Tail. I brought out Shelly and used U-turn, bringing Karen back out into a Dragon Dance from Haxorus. Karen took a little damage from Slash, but one final Iron Head defeated the cool looking dragon, and another easy gym fight let us collect our 8th gym badge, allowing us to set our sights on Victory Road and the Elite Four. The professor caught us before we left Opelucid City and asked us if we regretted going on this Pokemon journey. I took it as, do I regret trying this hardcore bug-only Nuzlocke? Yes, I do. Juniper was taken aback and said she didn't need to be told everything, but she was the one who asked the question. Don't ask questions if you don't want to hear the answers. She also gives us the Master Ball, which was nice of her. Charon catches up to us before Victory Road, wanting one last battle. Knowing that God soloed his team last time, I led with God into his Unfezant. 2 Electro Webs took down the bird, who only used taunts on my Electric Spider. Simipour took God into the yellow with Scald, but the 2 Electro Webs also brought down that aquatic monkey. I probably should have used Volt Switch to defeat Simipour, but too late. I used Volt Switch on Superior to bring out Angie, and Superior used a Coil to raise its attack and defense, which was actually a big help to it since Angie took a lot of damage and I had to swap to Karen to finish off Superior. Charon sent out his final Pokemon, and since Superior was quite a problem, I had to swap Karen out for Hermie, but one X-Scissor nuked Liepard and we beat Charon yet again. But I will say he did get a lot better. Bianca was tone deaf and gave us some max revives, which don't help us because if one of my Pokemon faints, they are dead forever. Turning to Victory Road, we finally had a bit of misfortune since the new encounter Durant was knocked out with a crit from X-Scissor, so we unfortunately do not get a new Pokemon. Luckily we have a team of 6 anyways, but that Durant would have been really nice in the coming battles. I got all the way to the top of Victory Road and one of the NPCs said there was an item at the bottom, supposedly worth a lot. Thinking that it was a TM or something and not checking a guide, I slide down there like an idiot and pick up a nugget, which is pretty worthless honestly. Now I have to go back up again, but it was quicker this time since I knew where I was going. I healed my Pokemon in the League Pokemon Center, bought a bunch of healing items for in between each Elite Four fight, took a deep breath, and stepped into the League. Since all of the Elite Four members were capped at level 50, I had to keep my team at level 48 in order to not over level. I gave Oshawott Shadow Claw and Angie X-Scissor and Dig before the first fight, since otherwise I would forget to put those moves on my Pokemon. I started with what I thought would be the easiest fight, the Psychic Trainer Caitlin. She gets mad at me because I woke her up from a nap, even though she is literally working right now. I led Oshawott holding the Expert Belt, holding I could get a clean sweep. Caitlin sends out Reuniclus and Oshawott dances with swords and takes a Psychic, doing over half of its HP, but X-Scissor one-shots the Cellular Blob, Sigilyph goes down to 1 Shadow Claw, Musharna goes down to 1 X-Scissor, and Gothitelle is defeated with 1 more X-Scissor. First fight down, easy easy peasy. I chose Grimsley next since he is a dark type expert and we should be able to beat him just as easily as Caitlyn, hopefully. I swapped the expert belt for the miracle seat since Grimsley leads with Scrafty and a boosted leaf blade would do more than a neutral X scissor. Scrafty goes for sand attack while Oshawott gets a sword stance, but the +2 does not allow for leaf blade to KO the next turn and Oshawott gets poisoned from a poison jab. Grimsley heals and thankfully leaf blade one-shots Scrafty the second time. I decided to stay in against Liepard and use X scissor where the Liepard did not fake out and got knocked out, forcing in Bisharp. I swapped to Hermie but could only use dig once before swapping to Karen due to taking too much damage. Karen finished off Bisharp and barely survived the Crocodile's onslaught, but I swapped back to Oshawott and finished the job. 2 Elite Four members down, 2 to go. I chose Chantal next, hoping Shadow Claw from Oshawott would put in the work. Putting the expert belt back on Oshawott, I prayed that Cofagrigus would miss any Will-O-Wisps it uses and started the battle. Oshawott used Sword Stance the first turn to offset any Will-O-Wisps, but Cofagrigus goes for a Shadow Ball, allowing me to click Shadow Claw the next turn and one-shotting the Coffin. Grim sends out Chandelure, and I kept Oshawott in, hoping that all my speed EVs would make it faster, which they do, and the Flaming Chandelier goes down to Shadow Claw. Jellicent comes out and gets one shot by Leaf Blade. Golurk comes out and also gets one shot by Leaf Blade, but this battle does level up Oshawott to level 51, so I cannot use this beast against Marshall. Not a great scenario to be in since Marshall is scary. I used rare candies on my team to get all of them up to level 50 since this is the last of the Elite Four fights. I led God into throw and used Volt Switch to start, getting a good chunk of damage into the Judo Pokemon. I send in Karen who got hit with Bulldoze, not that big of a deal. I click Iron Defense and throw misses the Stone Edge, and the second Stone Edge hits while I get Karen to +4 defense. I click Iron Head next, bringing throw into the low yellow. Another Iron Defense while Marshall heals, and then another few turns of Iron Head and Marshall uses his second heal. I slash on the turn of the heal, then Iron Head throw down. Sock comes out and the beefy Karen takes it down with 2 Iron Heads, but I swap out Karen when Conkeldurr comes out. God takes a Hammer Arm and I Volt Switch out into Shelly, who also takes a Hammer Arm. A crit from Giga Drain heals back a lot and defeats Conkeldurr, forcing Marshall's final Pokemon. Mienshao misses its first Rock Slide and Shelly fully heals with Giga Drain, but Mienshao crits its second Rock Slide and we lose our first Pokemon. Rest in peace, Shelly, you are gone but not forgotten. I swap to God and Volt Switch for the win, defeating the last of the Elite Four members, and I set my sights on the champion. As I walk up the steps to the champion, I appreciate the cinematics since it is quite a long walk. Like, why are there so many steps? When I arrive at the summit, I find In has beaten me to the punch and has defeated Alder, becoming the champion and unleashing the wrath of Team Plasma. Buildings shoot up out of the ground and surround the arena. My question is how did the Elite Four not hear these buildings being made? Like, there had to have been drills to make the castle, right? Anyways, I chase In into the castle, and right before I'm going to be banished to the Shadow Realm by the 7 sages, all of the gym leaders show up and have my back, reverse banishing the sages to the Shadow Realm. I make my way through the castle, getting lore from In's childhood room, until I reach the top of the castle and the legendary tamer In. Losing Shelly isn't the worst thing in the world since I have to catch Zekrom, which forces me down to a 5 Pokemon team anyways. I do level my Pokemon to level 54 with rare candies, since the battle with In and Getsis are back to back, and Getsis's ace is level 54. But before I face In, I have to catch Zekrom, who I just quickly catch with the Master Ball and name it Trash. Then it is time to fight In. Unfortunately, this game forces Zekrom to the lead against In, so I keep using battle items on Pokemon in my party, which forfeits my turn, allowing Reshiram to defeat Zekrom and allowing me to send in Angie without taking damage, much like it would on the first turn of battle. For this battle, I swapped out Dig for Bulldoze on Angie, knowing full well it will be decimated by a Fusion Flare, but needing the speed drop on Reshiram for Hermie to sweep through. Hermie finishes the legendary dragon off with Dig, forcing In into Caracosta. Dig took it into the yellow, but it took Hermie into the yellow with Stone Edge, forcing me to swap to Oshawott. I was hoping that the turtle would go for an Aqua Jet, but it opted for Waterfall instead. That's okay since Oshawott tanks it and knocks the turtle out with a Leaf Blade, where In sends out Klinklang. Now, this didn't make sense since Klinklang doesn't have a super effective move, but Zoroark does. So I decided to make a read and use X Scissor. The read paid off and it was super effective against Zoroark, a one-hit KO, and In sends out Vanillix. I swap Karen into a Blizzard, but Karen nimbly avoids it, and the next turn Vanillix is defeated with an Iron Head after it sets up Hail. Too little too late. In sends out Archeops, and while it does a decent chunk of Karen's health with Acrobatics, Karen returns with an Iron Head and knocks out the bird, leaving In with the real clean claim. I swap to Oshawott and resist the Thunderbolt, and the next turn I use Leaf Blade and barely survive a Flash Cannon and hail damage. I swap into God, who tanks the Flash Cannon and finishes off the Gear Pokemon with Discharge. We just beat the champion of the region, but Getsis is not too happy and challenges us immediately after. All of my Pokemon were healed, and so I am leading with Zekrom again into the Cofagrigus. I cannot use Zekrom or Engie this battle, but luckily Slash does no damage to the Coffin, so I keep using Slash while we wait for Zekrom to be defeated. I then send out Oshawott, and the first turn I use Shadow Claw since I know Cofagrigus will want to Toxic Stall. We get hit with Toxic, but it allows me to go for a free Swords Dance the next turn while Cofagrigus protects, and we knock it out the following turn with a Shadow Claw. Getsis sends out Hydreigon, and we one-shot with X-Scissor, but the toxic damage is piling up. Eelektross is next, who is one-shot with Leaf Blade, but we are still ticking down with Toxic. Bisharp is sent out, and while Oshawott gets the one-hit KO with X-Scissor, the Brave Fighter goes down to poison damage. Thank you for all you did, Oshawott, you were amazing. Hoping Getsis sends out Bouffalant and not Seismitoad, I sent out Karen and used Iron Defense while the Bison used Wild Charge. Karen used Iron Hands to take down the Bison, leaving Getsis with his Ground Toad as his final Pokemon and leaving me with Pokemon who don't appreciate being hit with Earthquake. I accidentally clicked Iron Head instead of X-Scissor, which was not very effective. Seismitoad set up the Rain and then knocked out Karen. Rest in peace, you were amazing. I sent out God next, taking the Toad into the yellow with a Signal Beam and surviving in muddy water, but God's accuracy was dropped by one stage and caused Signal Beam to miss the next turn, the Toad knocking out God. I am so sorry to have failed you. I sent out Hermie and prayed I was faster, not really knowing my speed tiers, but knowing I did invest speed EVs into my Rock Crab. Hermie was faster and knocked out Seismitoad, leaving us with one bug left, but we did it! We beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon White. To everyone who wanted a hardcore run, I hope you're happy now. Honestly though, I had an absolute blast playing with some of my favorite bug Pokemon in a generation that celebrates bug Pokemon. Playing through this game reminded me of how much I adore Generation 5 and the Pokemon White and Black games. Let me know if you want to see me continue and try to beat Alder, but the run is completed for now. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.